come on, will you get out of here so I can wash these keys?
I'm composing.
Composing? I haven't heard a good song out of you yet.
She was one of the most famous women in America. As Granny Daisy on the Beverly Hillbillies, Irene Ryan was a cultural icon whose face was a symbol of laughter to 60 million people. So, when she passed away, the world expected a grand Hollywood farewell. The reality was a shocking tragedy. Her funeral was a desolate, near-empty affair. There was no scandal, no public disgrace. So, why was she abandoned? The truth is a devastating story of a secret multi-million-dollar decision that ignited a war of greed, leading Hollywood to turn its back the moment she was gone. Because the seeds of that final, crushing betrayal weren't sown in scandal. They were hidden in the very fortune she spent 50 relentless years building. The million-dollar grind. Long before the oil money and Ozark charm, Irene Ryan was a vaudeville survivor, a scrappy performer who learned a brutal lesson on the road. The only person you can count on is yourself. Born Jessie Irene Noblet in 1902, she was thrown onto the stage at just 11 years old, not by choice, but by necessity. This wasn't a world of glamour, it was the grueling, unforgiving world of the vaudeville circuit. A hand-to-mouth existence of smoky theaters, rickety trains, and a new dingy boarding house every other night. She was a tiny girl with a giant voice and an even bigger will to survive, performing song and dance numbers for audiences who could turn on a performer in an instant. It was here, in this crucible of public opinion, that she learned her first lesson. Applause is temporary, but cash in hand is security. It was on this relentless circuit that she met and married comedian Tim Ryan, forming a double act billed as Tim and Irene. They found a degree of success, even headlining their own radio show for a time. But behind the laughter and the witty on-air banter, a harsh reality took shape. Irene was the engine of the operation, the true talent and the primary breadwinner. While Tim was the affable frontman, Irene was the driving force, the one who honed their material, managed their bookings, and ensured they got paid. She saw firsthand how easily a career could stall, how quickly the money could dry up. This experience forged in her an ironclad resolve. Financial security was paramount, and she would have to be the one to secure it for herself and for anyone who depended on her. For decades, she honed her craft, a consummate professional in a world that often dismissed female performers. When vaudeville began its slow fade, she didn't fade with it. She pivoted, moving seamlessly into the golden age of radio. She became a regular on Bob Hope's show, one of the most popular programs in the country. She wasn't the star, but she was a vital piece of the ensemble, known for her sharp comedic timing and boundless energy. She was the high-pitched, scatterbrained foil to Hope's smooth-talking persona, a voice millions of Americans knew and loved long before they ever saw her face. Every week, she delivered a flawless performance, earning the respect of a legend like Hope. But more importantly, earning a steady paycheck. She saved her money diligently, investing it wisely, always with an eye on the future. When television arrived, she transitioned again. She took small parts in films and early sitcoms, never too proud to take a minor role. She was always working, always saving, always hustling. She wasn't waiting for a big break. She was building an empire, one paycheck at a time. She and Tim eventually divorced in 1942, and Irene, now on her own, doubled down on her career. The split was reportedly amicable, but it reinforced her core belief in self-reliance. She was tough, professional, and fiercely independent. She had learned the hard way that fame was fleeting, but money in the bank was real. Then, in 1962, came the role that would change everything. At 60 years old, an age when most actresses were being pushed into retirement, Irene Ryan auditioned for the part of Daisy Moses, the cantankerous, shotgun-toting granny in a quirky new sitcom called The Beverly Hillbillies. She beat out more established actresses for the role, including the producer's first choice, screen veteran Bea Benaderet. In a classic Hollywood twist, it was Benaderet herself who suggested they audition Ryan, admitting that while she wanted the part, Irene was simply born to play it. In that moment, she struck gold. The show was an instant monster hit. It became the #1 program in the United States within 3 weeks of its premiere, a cultural phenomenon that regularly attracted 60 million viewers. And for Irene, the financial floodgates burst open. Her salary soared. making her one of the highest paid women on television. But this success was the ticking time bomb. Every laugh track, every hit season, was another dollar added to a treasure chest that was quietly becoming a multi-million-dollar problem. While America saw a cozy, loving TV family behind the scenes, Irene was a world away from the Hollywood social scene. On set, she was a consummate professional, but notoriously private. She wasn't attending lavish parties or cultivating industry friendships. Her co-stars respected her immense talent. But she remained an enigma, a woman who showed up, delivered a brilliant performance, and went home. She was laser-focused on her work and her finances, building a wall of privacy around herself. While she played America's most famous grandma, her own real-life connections remained few and strained. Her isolation grew in parallel with her fortune. By the time the show ended in 1971, she was a household name and a secret millionaire. But a decision she was drafting in private was about to become the script for her own tragic, lonely finale. The will that wiped a legacy. At the absolute peak of her career, with a Tony nomination on Broadway, Irene Ryan suffered a sudden collapse that triggered the reading of a secret will, a document that would reward total strangers and declare war on her own blood. After the Beverly Hillbillies was unceremoniously canceled in 1971 as part of the infamous Rural Purge, where CBS axed its popular country-themed shows to appeal to a more sophisticated urban audience, Irene didn't fade into obscurity. While many of her contemporaries were forced into retirement, Irene, at 70 years old, achieved a lifelong dream. She returned to the stage, landing a major role in the groundbreaking new Bob Fosse musical, Pippin. This was no ordinary Broadway show. It was edgy, dark, and stylistically revolutionary. For a woman known only as a sitcom, Granny to be cast in a Bob Fosse production was a testament to the immense talent she had cultivated for over 60 years. Her performance as Berthe, the feisty, life-affirming grandmother to the protagonist, was a sensation. She sang the show-stopping number, No Time at All, a song famous for breaking the fourth wall. As the lyrics were projected for the audience to join in, she created a powerful communal moment of joy every single night, a stark contrast to her private solitude. That performance earned her a 1973 Tony Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. At 70, Irene Ryan was more than just a sitcom star. She was a revered Broadway legend, taking a well-deserved victory lap. This was her crowning achievement, but tragedy struck with breathtaking speed. On March 10, 1973, during a Saturday matinee performance, Irene suffered a stroke on stage. She was rushed to the hospital, but her health rapidly declined. Her doctors discovered an inoperable brain tumor, a glioblastoma, confirming the worst. The woman who had been a force of nature just weeks before was now facing the end. Just 6 weeks later, on April 26th, she passed away. The suddenness of her death sent a shockwave through Hollywood and Broadway. But the biggest shock was yet to come. She had left behind a meticulously planned final act, a bombshell that nobody, especially not her own family, ever saw coming. When her will was read, the room fell silent. Her estate was valued at over $1 million, an immense sum for the time, equivalent to more than $7 million today. This was the fortune she had painstakingly built, dollar by dollar, over a lifetime of relentless work. But this fortune wasn't going to her relatives. Her sister, Anna, who reportedly believed she was the primary heir, was left a modest annuity, a yearly allowance that was a pittance compared to the total value of the estate. A few other small bequests were made to friends and distant family. The vast, overwhelming majority of Irene Ryan's hard-earned millions was designated for a single purpose: to create the Irene Ryan Foundation. This foundation, the will stipulated with cold legal precision, would partner with the prestigious Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., to provide annual scholarships to promising young college actors, helping them launch their careers. It was, on the surface, an incredible act of generosity, a way for the Vaudeville survivor to give the next generation the helping hand she never had. But for her family, it was a declaration of war. They were stunned, then outraged. In their eyes, this wasn't charity. It was a final, devastating snub. They had been written out of their own sister's life story, replaced by a legion of strangers who had never even met her. The will turned their grief into a white-hot rage. They believed the money was their birthright, and they were not going to let it go. The document meant to cement Irene's legacy had instead lit the fuse for a bitter conflict that would begin before her funeral flowers even had a chance to wilt. A final empty curtain call. The battle for Irene's millions began before she was even laid to rest, ensuring that the star who lived in the spotlight would receive a final farewell, shrouded in bitterness and empty chairs. Her funeral was held at the wee kirk of the Heather Church at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, a setting famous as the final resting place for Hollywood's elite, from Humphrey Bogart to Walt Disney. It was a place designed for grand farewells, but on that day the pews were hauntingly sparse. While her loyal on-screen son, Buddy Ebsen, stood as a pallbearer to say a final, dignified goodbye, the absence of so many others was deafening. Her family, incensed by the will, was reportedly not in attendance. The grand majority of the Hollywood elite, the producers, directors, and stars who had praised her talent for years, stayed away, not wanting to be drawn into the brewing controversy. The small, somber gathering was a tragic testament to the private war now raging over her estate. The woman who made a nation roar with laughter was mourned in a whisper. The silence of the funeral was quickly shattered by the noise of a media firestorm. Feeling utterly betrayed, Irene's family, led by her sister, immediately and publicly contested the will in court. They launched a messy, aggressive legal battle that raged for months, making explosive claims that Irene was not of sound mind when she signed the document. Their lawyers argued that a woman who had spent her life meticulously saving money would never simply give it all away. They alleged she had been subjected to undue influence, painting a lurid picture of a frail old woman being manipulated by her advisors into cutting off her own family. Her name, her wishes, and her memory were dragged through the mud. The court case became the dominant story of her death, completely overshadowing her incredible 7-decade career. The narrative shifted. She was no longer remembered as the beloved Granny or the Tony-nominated stage actress. In the press, she was portrayed as an eccentric millionaire who had cruelly snubbed her own family. Her final act of charity was twisted into a bizarre story of spite, her generosity reframed as a symptom of delusion. The foundation she had envisioned as a beacon of hope for young artists was now mired in a public spectacle of greed and resentment, its noble purpose lost in a fog of ugly accusations. The legal battle raged on, casting a long, dark shadow over her legacy. The estate's executors fought back, presenting evidence of Irene's sharp mind and fierce independence right up until her final illness. They argued that the will was the ultimate expression of her life's philosophy, self-reliance, and a belief in rewarding hard work. In the end, after all the accusations and ugly headlines, the courts made a final ruling. Irene Ryan's will was upheld. Her final wishes would be honored. She got her wish, but the price was immense. Her legacy would forever be linked to a bitter family feud. And her final curtain call was a funeral attended by almost no one. The Irene Ryan Foundation went on to become one of the most prestigious and important acting scholarships in the American collegiate theater world, an integral part of the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival that helps launch thousands of careers. Her dream was realized, but she wasn't there to see it, and the people who should have been mourning her were too busy fighting over the cost. The price for her dream. In death, Irene Ryan achieved her dream of giving back, but the cost was a heartbreaking final act of abandonment. The story is a tragic irony. A woman who clawed her way through vaudeville to build a fortune, hoping to use it to create a lasting legacy, instead saw that very fortune poison her closest relationships and drain all the warmth from her own memorial. She had spent a lifetime chasing security, only to find that her ultimate act of generosity created the ultimate division. This leaves us with a final, haunting question. Was Irene Ryan's final act a truly selfless gift to the arts, a beautiful gesture from a woman who knew the struggle of a young performer? Or was it a calculated final revenge on a world and a family she felt had never truly been there for her? She filled millions of living rooms with laughter, but in the end, her fortune left her own funeral in deafening silence. What do you think of Irene Ryan's final decision? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story left an impression on you, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more hidden stories from Hollywood history you were never meant to see.